Okay, welcome everybody for this session on the Master Evening, where we present to you our master's program of the faculty. So we'll start with obviously the most important master programs of the econ department. Other people will tell you this is not true, that their masters are more important, but you'll see, I'll try to convince you that this is actually, it's true what I say. So we'll see. I'll start with the Masters in Economics, okay. So, Masters in Economics, Master en Économie politique et puis Master in Volkswirtschaftslehre. Je vais parler en anglais. I'll speak in English so everybody has the same chance of following the things I say. Okay, so economics is essentially a social science. Right? We are part of the social sciences and we are interested in anything that a society might find important. Not just markets or the economy, but basically any stuff that is related to humans interacting. So that's why I became an economist, because I thought these social problems, economic problems, etc. are important. So we seek to understand how individuals behave on average, not just each individual per se, in each circumstance, but on average. So what we look at is basically systematic behavior that comes from changes in incentives, in constraints, etc. So you've already seen that in your basic courses in economics. So modern economics entails studying economic theory, but also all the econometric methods to test these theories. And we want to understand finally economic, social, as well as political outcomes. Economists are on demand basically everywhere, and I think demand will not slump. I think there will be growing demand, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Okay. What's the program of the Masters in Economics? You basically have, within the Masters in Economics, you have two choices. The first choice, what you see up there, is you do not specialize, you receive a Master's in Economics, and you have two compulsory courses, Pflichtkurse, des cours obligatoires, that are 12 ECTS. These are two courses, one in econometrics, the other in advanced econometrics and advanced microeconomics, which will be taught in English. That's something, maybe a constraint, but everybody should be aware of that. After that, you're basically free to choose courses within the economics curriculum for 58 ECTS, plus some of the courses you can also take from the faculty. I think 15 ECTS you can freely choose among the courses in the faculty. You write a master thesis of 20 ECTS, and if you've done that successfully, you'll receive your master's degree in economics. Now, if you think you would like to specialize and would like to signal that to the labor market, you can also choose among 4 options. So the basic idea is again the same. You have first the 2 courses, the compulsory courses, and then you might want to specialize in either an option that focuses on public economics and public policy, which you have a series of courses among which you can choose, and these are 31 ECTSs that you have to collect from these specialized courses within the modules of the option in public economics and policy, and still 27 ECTS are completely free for you to choose from, up to 15 outside of economics. So the options, what are the options? Not just public economics and public policy, but also sustainable development and social responsibility. This is a course that integrates courses in economics, but also courses that are close to economics, where we give you more context on these issues. The third option is quantitative economics, where you go more into detail in quantitative courses, econometrics, data handling, data analysis. And the fourth option that you might choose from is to specialize more in business economics, which integrates economics, mostly microeconomics, industrial organization, etc., behavioral economics, organizational economics, together with courses from the management department to basically try to integrate economics and management. So that's the options you have in the standard, in our standard master's program. So what you have is without specialization and one track where you can choose one of these 4 specializations. Now, probably the stuff that is most important, or what I think is most important, is why should you choose that sort of curriculum? I think economic, obviously, I'm doing economics, and obviously I find it super interesting, exciting, and I think everybody should do it. But I think economics opens a lot of doors. It opens the doors to, if you want to stay in the public sector, to to be a consultant for public sector economics. There's lots of stuff that you can do. You can work also for the public sector. You can work for the central bank, but you can also become an economist in a private sector company that employ more and more economists, especially if you also have the basic training in econometrics and statistics. A lot of data is available, and economics gives you standard tools to actually work with them. But obviously, international organizations are in search for economists. But I would say also management functions in private businesses, in financial sectors, insurances are tracks that are open. Consultancies, for example, I've been working in a consultancy after my economics studies, my PhD in economics. So these are good preconditions to basically understand organizations, etc. So you can apply economics in all these sort of areas. Obviously, you can also become a researcher at universities or broader in the educational sector. Okay, so I think, the world is vast, and economics gives you access to a lot of these interesting positions. So I was a bit rushing through, but if there is just questions right now or something you would like to know about, I'm still here. I think I still have like 2 minutes on that part. Okay, so there is obviously also a second program. That's why I'm still here, and I don't hand over to Marino. And it's basically, I think it's also from the design of today's event, from this first part. It's it's a sort of a nice sequence, because so we start with the Econ Masters in the traditional master's perspective or economics perspective, and we have also thought about how can we go further and try to give you even a stronger specialization with all the stuff that goes on out there on the data side. So you probably know everybody talks about big data, the digital economy, etc. So we thought it might be a good idea to integrate economics and data analytics. Basically try to marry 2 things that you can actually study here. You could previously study separately, that we try to marry them. It's informatics and data science and economics. So which gives the program its title on data analytics and economics. So as I said, digital economy, lots of data, lots and lots of data are out there. They are used by companies, by governments to, in the best of all worlds, to improve customer satisfaction, that you find more quickly what you'd like to have in terms of products, or that find better matches and more quickly. Think about Uber. You want to get a transport service, and you need to find customers and producers of these services, and you need to match them very quickly. Behind there is not only data, but a lot of economics. It's matching markets, right? You want to match the consumer with the producer in a very efficient way. So you need both. So there is a growing number of business models that are based exactly on this marriage of huge data, and how to handle these data, and economic theory to actually use the data in an efficient way. So Susan Athey is probably one of the most important economists of our time. Susan Athey started with a lot of theory, economic theory, went on to be a contributor to econometrics, became a chief economist of one of the tech giants. And during that period, when Athey got into the tech sector, more and more tech giants started to have a chief economist. Hal Varian, for example, maybe you have used the microeconomics textbook by Hal Varian. He's the chief economist of Google. Why? Just because data alone might not tell you the full story, because data, if you want to improve or optimize consumer surplus or producer surplus, you might want to know something about how these markets work, and that's why you use Economists. So she had a nice paper in a Journal of Economic Perspective where she describes the core skills of economists in tech companies. And she basically says, look, it's the ability to assess and interpret relationship. It is understand and design markets. This is something that the economists bring to the table. And obviously also to understand industry structure, equilibrium behavior, and all the data that goes with it. So I think, just to give you an example, but this applies for PhD. So in a recent survey of tech giants, so the entry salary for PhD economists in the US, for Amazon, etc., is about $220,000. Okay, that's the US, it's with a PhD, but I think just the perspectives are gigantic. So I think it's worth trying to marry also these two disciplines if you're interested in data analytics and economics. Okay, so some ads, that to give you some evidence of my claims that I just pulled out of my pocket. So how does the master's program look like? So it's, as you can imagine, data analytics and economics, it has two pillars. One is data analytics and the other is economics. No surprise there. So it's about the organization of markets, the organization of the design of organization. So it's very strongly related to microeconomics. So data analytics. So what you have is courses on data analysis and techniques, machine learning, causal inference, handling of big data sets, and obviously programming. And that's where the marriage comes in with the IT department, with informatics, where you learn, all these big data tools that you might not get if you do pure economics. If you do the economics specialization in the other master's program, you will learn a lot about causal inference, data analysis, machine learning, but maybe a bit less on the programming side. You will also program, obviously, in the other, but here you learn additional important skills. The second pillar is economics of markets and organizations. So there is stuff like strategic pricing, market design, how to organize an auction. If you think about Uber, if you call an Uber, it's basically an auction that happens in the background. Market intermediation, what happens with platforms, booking, etc., market power and regulation. And if you can also have electives, get some courses outside of that. You can take courses also in public economics if you wish, or stuff that is more closely related like digital marketing, economics of innovation, etc. Okay, so maybe something I forgot that I just thought that I will have to say. The nice part of that is you marry economics and informatics. And what you'll hear just in a minute is how you marry informatics and management. So questions from your side before I hand over to Marino.